According to the Egyptian mystery school of Akhenaten, the law of one, this is the symbol for that school. Though they wouldn't let me draw the symbol exactly as it should be, and if to do it properly, the area inside of this circle should be gold. It's actually the right eye of Horus on the surface of the solar disk, which was the symbol for their religion. Now, it begins in this way. Both the Christian and the Egyptian religions have certain things in common, like I said. They have another thing in common having to do with creation itself. Both of these religions believe that everything came from nothing. I'll read the... they believe that it came from the void, the great void. The Christians call it the great void, or just the void, whereas the Egyptians call it the duat. I'm going to take my glasses off here. Chapter 1, this is of Genesis. I'm just going to read the first three sentences, or three numbers, rather, of chapter 1. And it says, "In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth." So, we don't know who God is, but that's who created the heaven and the earth. Number 2, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." And immediately after that, number 3, it says, "And God said, let there be light, and there was light." There's a statement in, first of all, you see that in the beginning the earth was void and without form. There's nothing. Voidness is nothing. And then the next thing that happened is the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, or the deep. And then this movement, immediately after the movement, he said, "Let there be light." Well, from an Egyptian point of view, this is a very simplified version of their belief. And that there is something missing in this belief, which from a physicist's point of view would absolutely have to be there. Otherwise, this could not take place. This is impossible. Absolutely impossible from a physical point of view. In the sense that if you have, again, there's 144 different kinds of voidness, but in 3D space, like we're in, voidness simply means space with nothing in it, no thing, no molecules, no light, no anything at all. Well, if you were in 3D space, imagine yourself being in deep, deep space, and okay, you got a body, you can keep that much, but nothing else. And it's infinite, below you, above you, behind you, all the way around, just infinite forever nothingness. And then you decided to move. First thing you did was God moved on the face of the water. So you're going to move. How can you move? How's that possible? If you're going to move from here to over there, how do you know you did it? Or if you turned around, how do you know you turned around? In physics, movement, kinetic energy, requires 2 points. It requires something to move relative to. There has to be something else first before movement's possible. You've got to have something here. If you got something here, then you can move relative to it. You can move around it. You can rotate relative to it, and everything else. But if there is only 1 point, movement or kinetic energy is impossible. It has no meaning, no definition. There's no way for it to be determined. The Egyptians, in their understanding of the same thing, say that there is a step in between there. And so their training is this. They also believe that the great void, or the Dawat, is the source of all things, and that the only thing that is required in the great void is spirit. Just spirit and nothingness, and that is the source of all things. And they also believe that it is the movement of spirit that creates the worlds. But they have a step in the middle, and this is what they do. They believe that spirit contains within it, within spirit, not talking about body, just spirit, contains within itself, or consciousness, however you want to look at it, contains within it the key to getting out of or beginning the process of movement from the great void. And that key has to do with the directions, the sacred directions of the American Indians, the east, west, south, north, etc., or the sacred directions of the Kabbalah, of the east, west, north, south, up and down, of the four angels of Michael and Ariel and Gabriel and Raphael and Ariel and Metatron. These directions, these are very, very sacred directions. And for many people, you might think, well, so what? I mean, what does directions have? What is so important about directions? Well, when you're getting out of the great void, they're really important. And if you were to walk down this hallway, and the hallway was dark, but just say real dimly lit, and you could barely see in there, and you came into this room, which was absolutely black. You came up to the double doors over there, and you could just barely see the outline of the door, but you couldn't see inside there at all. You could walk up to that doorway and just step in just a little bit, and now you're in this total darkness. And we all have this innate ability to project a certain distance into the darkness. We can, without using our hands or anything, we can just kind of sense or feel if there's anything directly in front of us for a certain distance. It may only be an inch, maybe it's 2 or 3 inches, maybe it's a foot, or maybe it's 3 feet or more. Everybody's different. There's a certain distance you can go, and you just know nothing's there. And you keep going, and all of a sudden your knowing quits. You're not sure anymore, and you can't go any further. You don't know if there's anything there or not. And so you've got this little line, or this projection line that will go out into the void a certain distance. That is the essential element of consciousness that begins the process, according to the Egyptians. And we have that in 6 directions. We have it in front, and it's the same distance in all 6 directions. Our ability to project into the voidness is equal in all directions. We can't go further to the left than we can to the right. And so we can project whatever that projection in front of us, we'll find that we can do the same distance to the sides, to the back, and above us, and front of and below us. If we're thinking of ourselves as just a spirit. And if you want to think of that, you can think of yourself as a round sphere, maybe, when you're spirit, that you really have no form. You have this, so you get these 6 little beams that come out a certain distance. Once, so the training in Egypt was as they would get them used to projecting these beams out. Once they projected these beams, and they would get them to project them out a certain distance. The distance was 27.5 feet, approximately. They chose that because that's the outer rim of your energy fields. And so they'd have you project a beam out 27.5 feet in each direction. You'd learn until you could do that. They would train you. You can get these 6 little beams going out. And then you got 2 going this way, and you got 2 going that way, and you got 2 going this way. Okay, you all got the directions clear. So you got these form a square around you, right? If you were to see them from above, here's the person. This is looking. You'd have one going out this way, one going that way, one going this way, and one going that way, and then of course one going this way. So these are the 4 that are around you this way. They would then have the person project those beams out, those 27.5 feet approximately, and then they would have them connect them together like this, forming this flat square or diamond around them. And then they would, from these four corners, they would run these beams up to the top one and form a pyramid around them. And then they would run the beams down and form a pyramid facing down below them. By the way, most of the pyramids in Egypt have a pyramid going in the earth as well as above the earth, centered right on the earth, to form that pattern going down the earth. So they form these two pyramids, which is called an octahedron, which looks like this. You can see it from this is the square, the flat plane that would be around us. So this is the front, this is the back, this is the left, and the right, and the up, and the down. They form this shape around their body. These two back-to-back pyramids. And so they go into the great void, and they form these two big pyramids. They're 27.5 feet, they're 55 feet across. In there, they form these things around them. Okay, that's the first step they do before they do anything. Well, once they've created this, and it's just mental patterns, it's nothing, right? Just mental patterns. But once the form has been created around the spirit, kinetic energy or movement is now possible. The little spirit could come outside and rotate around this thing and come down here and move over here, or it could rotate inside of it, or it could sit still and rotate this. There's lots of possibilities that can be there. And these possibilities were without it. There's nothing, there's no way to move because there's no way to know if motion's taking place. But with it, motion's completely possible. Does everybody understand that? Any problem with that? Okay. So, now there are other ways that this could take place, but this is the way that this particular school gave the training. They have to proceed in one way or another, and this is the way they proceeded. So this isn't the only way that one can proceed from here. In fact, there is some other real interesting ways that this could be done, but this is what they were taught. They were then taught to rotate, as they sat still, they were then taught to rotate the entire thing like this. It didn't matter, it didn't matter if they went forward or backwards, just in other words, you're using this axis. And so you're rotating either forward or back like that. Then you would switch to the front-back axis and rotate either to the left or to the right, doesn't matter. And then go to the top axis and rotate either to the left or to the right, doesn't matter, from that way. Now what that does is it traces the parameters of a sphere. And you have a perfect sphere if you rotate all these through all the different patterns. And so you now have this sphere around you. And once they get the sphere around them, they're then told to drop this image. And so they drop this, and they go to, and I wish I had one, but I don't have one. They go to a perfect little sphere. I do have a little one. It's very little. So they go to a sphere. The reason they switch from the sphere, from the octahedron, it's called an octahedron, that form is, to a sphere, is that the movements are easier and less complicated. The movements that they're going to make afterwards to create the reality. Though the reality could be created through angles, it's easier to do it through a sphericalness. Now, another thing that I need to just bring up here real quickly, a point, is that there are two kinds of lines in sacred geometry. One is called male, and the other is called female. A male line is any line that is straight. That's a male line. Any line that is not straight is female, no matter what it is, if it's curved. In other words, this is a female line. That's a female line. And the most female of all female lines is a circle. And the most female of all female shapes is a sphere. And so also in the belief of the Christian Bible is that first there was Adam was created, and then Eve. And Eve was created from Adam. Male came first, female created from that. And the Egyptian belief, only in terms of geometrical things, is that the male form was created first. It was purely straight lines. And then the female form created from it was created second. So here's this little spirit now inside of this big round sphere, and he's sitting right in the center of it, he or she. Spirit's not really male or female. So the spirit is sitting inside of the sphere. Well, spirit could sit there forever. There's really no time at this point. Time doesn't exist. Time didn't actually exist at all until that was created. Until the octahedron is created. You have to have something. There has to be something to have a continuum. Time is not, there's no such thing as time. There's only continuum of space. Time is a mental thing that we've created up. What are you going to do with time? Where are you going to get it? Where is it? What is it? It's nothing. It doesn't exist. It's nothing at all. All there is the continuum of an object continuing through time, what we call. But time doesn't exist. It's just the continuum of space is all there is. And so once the object was created, then time, what we, as our mind thinks of it, was also simultaneously created. So the little person could sit inside this big sphere for a long, long, long time until finally he says, or he or she says, I think I'll do something. And there is one very specific thing that could be done that would be unique. I guess there's a lot of unique things you could do, but there's one. The training was, let's put it this way, the training is that once you create the sphere, you go to that which was newly created. That was the instructions. That's always the instructions, is to go to the new thing that was created. Well, what is it that was new that was created? The membrane. There's now an inside and an outside, and there's this membrane of the sphere that separates those two, and that is different than anything else that's in the entire universe. And so where you're instructed to go to is to the membrane, to the surface of the sphere. You can't make a mistake. It doesn't make any difference where you go on the sphere. You can go down, up, and it doesn't make any difference how you get there. You can curve over there, or make a straight line, or meander sideways, or whatever you want. But you get there, and when you get to the surface, now you're now in position, and at that point, you only know how to do one thing. That's the limit of your memory at this point, and that is you know how to do two things, an octahedron or a sphere, but you're switched to sphericalness now. And so you move up to the surface of the sphere, somewhere on it, at which point you make another sphere, and you only know how to make one size sphere. You don't even know how to make two sizes, you only know how to make one size. So you make another sphere exactly the same as this one.